if you were a betting man, how long do you give the Trump-Elon bromance?
What a question to ask.
In this video, I don't know why I do it, but I revisit the Piers Morgan show. This video where he has both Patrick Bet-David on and Dennis Quaid talking about Trump, and then there's a nice little bit where Patrick Bet-David is talking about the Trump-Musk relationship that I think is an interesting, but the reason why I want to show you this is it's like people on the right have convinced themselves, they believe that Donald Trump is committed to helping Americans, that what he's really all about is genuinely making this country a better place to live for each and every American citizen. And I'll just spoil it right now and say that I think that's baloney, and I believe that Donald Trump doesn't care about anybody. Perhaps this is true of a lot of politicians, but perhaps in the history of politics, since Nero, no leader has cared so singly about themselves and their own interests as much as Donald Trump. So now that I've spoiled it, let's check this out together. I'm going to have some other opinions that I will not be able to resist sharing as we go, and then I want to know what you think in the comments.
Again, that's the quality of a visionary. A visionary lives in the future truth. To him, in the future, these are all things that are happening. So he casts it first. The critics say, you're crazy. Then a few people who are the scholars and people who are reading and actually historians are like, no, this is not actually crazy. Here's what this is. Oh, okay. And then it becomes a reality. Then he gets qualified as a visionary. So I think this is going to happen a lot the next 4 years. For the viewers, strap on your seatbelt. You're about to go on a wild ride the next 4 years.
Well, that's hard to argue with. And I think that the victor history is written by the victor. But that doesn't necessarily, if you ask Russians right now, Stalin was a visionary, right? So, it's never black and white. There's, for those of you who don't know the negative things that Stalin did, get out your Google and look that up. So that's not self-justifying, right? That's not, those of us who survive may look back on this and been like, oh, he was great. Or if he gets his way in schools, and he gets to literally rewrite textbooks, then that is what children will be taught moving forward. That doesn't self-justify anything.
A final question, Patrick. If you were a betting man, how long do you give the Trump-Elon bromance?
What a question to ask. I'll answer it in a different way. Here's how I'll answer it. I think we're about to find out what Elon's real long-term vision is.
Yeah.
Let me explain what I mean by this. You know the benefit of knowing when you're talking to somebody else who, if they fear God, what's the benefit of having the fear of God and you have a certain faith you follow? What happens when you have someone that fears God? You kind of know there's certain things they're not going to cross. They're just not. And then there are some, communities where there is the aspiration to want to be God. And that is you don't want to flirt with that. And here's a person that's done something that nobody's ever done in history of mankind. You're worth $500 billion. You're operating companies and working 120 hours a week based on his saying, on how his schedule is right now, 7 days a week, and he's driving all these businesses. I think in this context, if he chooses to be the flag carrier towards Trump, behind closed doors, you have to know the woman he's talking to, his friends, his coworkers, people are giving him so much flattery of, without you, Trump would have never won. Without this.
What's interesting to me is as he's talking here, it's unclear whether he's talking about Trump or Musk. I think it's equally true of both men.
If that doesn't get to his head and he stays stable and focused on the vision,
I don't think stable applies to either Trump or Musk. Are we seeing stability? Are people looking at this and being like, yeah, that's what stability looks like. That's what God-fearing looks like.
It's going to be the greatest duo ever. But this year on my vision board, I put a picture of two players on the middle of my vision board. I'm a diehard Kobe Bryant and God bless his soul and Shaq, and the picture's right in the middle. If those two guys could work together, we could have won 8 championships back to back to back.
Yeah.
And I think in that part, one of them had to realize you're the flag carrier. You're not the number one.
That's,
If
you
the
know
fight
what?
becomes who's number one,
Yeah.
I think it's very problematic. But I think a lot of things are going to be revealed the next 12 to 24 months in the relationship of Elon and Trump.
Yeah.
But see, I think Trump is a narcissist, and I think Elon's a megalomaniac. And I use those terms. I'm not a clinician, but I would say that, diagnosably, you could say that Trump is a textbook narcissist. And Elon Musk, how do you control $500 million and not have that go to your head? Right? How do you not develop a God complex when you are literally the wealthiest person in the history of people?
It's such a great comparison. I would say that Elon is smart enough, clearly. He's probably factored in that it's going to be great for business if he stays closely aligned to Trump. And I think that will always concentrate his mind in allowing Trump to obviously be top dog. Because if he doesn't, Trump will probably separate them, and that's going to be bad for business. So I just think that he's smart enough to have worked that out. We shall see that. It'll be fascinating.
All right, we're going to let that guy go back to his little clown car, and we're going to switch over to Dennis Quaid, who, I like Dennis Quaid on screen. I've always enjoyed him as an actor, but I think what he's going to say here about Trump is just fundamentally misguided. Let's listen.
Dennis, I can't let you go without referencing back to our last interview. It made a lot of headlines. Donald Trump is now president.
Yeah.
I'll play the clip to remind people of your great line about him. Let's just watch this.
All right. People might call him an asshole, but he's my asshole.
Right. No, I get that.
Because he's I'll tell you one true thing about him is that I really feel that he is working for the American people. That's what he's all about.
Based on what evidence, my friend? Give me one example.
When you said that, Dennis, you got a lot of pickup. But actually, you were completely vindicated in the sense that obviously many other Americans came to the similar conclusion that you did. Hence the scale of his victory.
I mean, that's not vindication. That's just a brilliant propaganda campaign, right? I mean, we'll go back to the beginning of the video. History is written by the victor, but that doesn't mean it's good for us along the way.
Well, I think President Trump is for the American people. I think that's what he thinks about in his policies and his actions. And, although they may not like him so much in California, he's there for them.
What are you talking about?
And he's going to do the right thing. And in spite of Newsom, in spite of Bass, in the state legislature 2 days ago, they passed a bill for $25 million to still battle Donald Trump, keep him out, his policies out of California. We all need to work together here. Forget about Republican, forget about Democrat.
And Dennis Quaid thinks Donald Trump is the unity candidate.
And that's what he's doing.
Oh yeah, that's clearly what he's doing. He's going to once he gets done deporting everybody, then unity.
By the way, if in the next election, if the Democrats have a candidate that really makes more sense than what the Republicans are already doing, I'll vote for them too.
Actually, so now I've got to give him credit. If the Democrats could put somebody up that could, Bernie Sanders is too old, but could put somebody up that chimed with these populist things that out of Donald Trump's mouth were always just a lie. Look, I'll go on the record here and say it. I would be delighted to be wrong. I would be absolutely delighted to have somebody come after, to have Donald Trump do all of these populist things he's promised and make America wealthy again and raise the minimum wage and all the things that Bernie Sanders recommends, common sense fixes to the disparities that have developed. I would love to say, wow, was I wrong? Geez, I was such a cynical jerk, and hooray, praise him on high. It's not going to happen. I'm not worried about it. Dennis Quaid is right, though. If the Democrats could put somebody forward that excited the working people of this country, the 60% of this country living paycheck to paycheck, then they would vote for him, right? And I think that they didn't feel like they had that option this time.
It's about what's best for America. What do we need right now as a people today in our times? And I think President Trump, I think he's going to be he's exactly what we need.
Did you have a conversation with him after your asshole quote?
Briefly. Well, his son was like, gosh, you really get my dad. Not about being an asshole, but it was like, he's brash, and that's where he comes off, and he says things that make people go, what? But a lot of them turn out to be true. I remember when he was first going to run for president, he said, he's going to build a wall, and people like, that's the craziest idea I ever heard. And he said, well, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
It's still a crazy idea, right? The idea that you can build a wall and then dust your hands off and that fixes a border. Look, if I don't like my neighbors and I build an 8-foot fence between me and my neighbors, maybe that does fix a number of problems. It doesn't make my neighbors go away. If my neighbors are trying to get into my yard, it's not going to stop my neighbors from getting into my yard. Anyway, I don't know. I'm experimenting with doing this thing where I'm the progressive voice instead of just commenting on what the thoughts of another progressive voice is. And I have a newfound respect for these people who are able to kind of keep their clarity and keep their calm, because it is crazy making to me. And I know I rant and I rave, but I'm thank you for sticking with me. I want to know what you think in the comments.